I'm gonna let people here watch the rest of this thing here. This is on ESPN First Take. This is Skip Bayless, and this is the part 2 version of Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless talking about Donald Sterling. I'm gonna let you watch this in a minute. I should have put on the Stephen A. Smith Part 1 first version, and then put this one on. Matter of fact, I'll do that. I'm gonna do that in a minute. Let me do that. Let's see. I'm gonna have Stephen A. Smith. Okay, let me put this on. The reason why I'm going to do this first is because there's 2 parts of it, and it's better just to show one part, then show the other part. Boy, Donald Sterling had a history of, negligence against black people. As far as like he didn't want black people or Hispanic people living in his his apartment complexes or whatever, his condos or whatever that he owns. He owns a few like condos and stuff like that, and apartment buildings, I think, or something like that. And he had a problem with black people and Latino race. He had a problem with them renting out his places or whatever. And this has been going on for what Skip Bayless said for over a decade, and nobody really took any action to that back then. Nobody did anything about that. He wasn't sued or nothing like that. So this is a history that is, about this man, that has finally came out, I guess finally revealed now how he truly feels about blacks and Puerto Ricans and whatever, Mexicans or whatever, stuff like that. The minorities, in which he called. And come to find out, this is another thing too. I had my video as fire, Donald Sterling, Adam Silver. Come to find out, you can't fire the guy. You can only suspend him indefinitely, or you can fine him a lot of money. This guy has, he's a billionaire, or multi-millionaire or a billionaire, whatever you want to call it. He has a lot of money. So I really don't know what Adam Silverman is going to do yet. Hopefully by tomorrow some action will be taken, but we don't see anything going on right now. So I don't know. This is about to get more uglier and about to get more deeper than it started to be. Especially if they don't suspend him. The fine, I don't think they could do a fine. He has too much money as it is. You could fine him $10 million. He's going to pay that with no problem, and he'll still be the owner of the Clippers. Suspend him indefinitely. That's the best course of action you could do to Donald Sterling. Suspend him indefinitely, and then, put somebody else on the side to own the team. But anyway, I'm going to let you listen to Stephen A. Smith here, and listen to what he has to say about this whole thing. Okay, here it go.
Had all weekend to think about this. The first instinct that came to my mind was, okay, this is obviously disturbing, it's disgusting, it's very unfortunate. But I must admit to you, Skip Bayless, I kind of had a smile on my face. Because I also was not surprised. And I wasn't surprised because I remember one time I was in the Staples Center couple of years back, and believe it or not, Donald Sterling always comes up to me when he sees me at the games for the Clippers, and he says, "I'm such a fan of your work. I just love your work," and blah, blah. And I appreciated the compliments and the kind words. And my man Baron Davis, who used to play for the Clippers, pulled me to the side one day and said, "Do you know this man's history? Do you know what he's..." Because I had no idea. I had no clue. And then you look up and you see racial discrimination lawsuits. You see the Department of Justice involved. You see a $2.17 million settlement that he had to dole out because of his transgressions, refusing to rent to black and Hispanic families. And I said to myself, okay, we got this. We see what it is right now and understand what's going on here. Clearly, based on the lawsuit the wife has filed against the woman that he supposedly, allegedly was having a relationship with on the side.
Yep.
We understand he was messing with the girl. He was talking to her, and he was clearly offended that she was in the company and publicizing friendships, relationships, or whatever the case may be with black people. That part did not surprise me one bit, that Donald Sterling would feel that way. What resonated with me, however, is when he talked about how Magic Johnson, and then he said because she threw in the Larry Bird comparison, and he brought up Magic Johnson as well. She brought up Magic Johnson, and he said, "I don't mind you hanging out. You do whatever you want to do. Just don't publicize it and don't bring him to my games." And obviously we heard on the tape him continuously alluding to black people. Why are you around black people? What does that do for you? Etc., etc. And if you listen to the tape, it resonates so profoundly because it speaks to ultimately the fears, the emotions, the ire, and the vitriol that continuously emanates from the black community. When we say, "You really don't like us. You really don't want us around. You really want us to stay in our place." And Donald Sterling exemplified and illuminated that better than anybody could have hoped to. Because basically what he is saying is, I have no problem with black people so long as they're in a subservient position. I have no problem with black people whatsoever, as long as they stay in their place. I don't want them on with me. I don't want them on my level. So if you're having a relationship on the side with some young honey,
And by the way,
right,
she's black and Mexican.
but
right?
he didn't know she was black.
Okay. I
He
guess
didn't
that was
know-
news then.
He didn't know about the black part.
Okay.
He knew about the Mexican part. He didn't know about the black part.
Right.
But even then, considering some of the stuff that he's articulated in the past about blacks and Mexicans, it don't really matter because he seemed to have a problem with anybody who wasn't white. But what America needs to understand is that the uproar emanates from the fact, it's like an aha moment. See, I've been telling y'all moment. Because what Donald Sterling displayed, allegedly, assuming it's his voice, which they're still checking with the league, what he displayed ultimately substantiated the fears of an entire nation of black people. When we say, this is how a lot of folks feel about us who are not black. We're fine as long as we stay in our place. And what makes this egregious, and I have more to say, but I want to give it to you, Skip. But what makes this egregious is that the NBA is 80% black. You have a team that's more than 80% black. You have a head coach who is now also in control of basketball operations who is black. You have no problem saying these things because they're making you money, but you don't really want them around. They're basically labor to you. It's been validated. It's been substantiated forever. He has to go. He cannot be an owner in the NBA. Commissioner Silver, the NBA owners do not have the power to just strip him of ownership. They can only fine him $1 million. They can suspend him possibly indefinitely. What they need to do is stand up and galvanize America by sending a simple message. We don't want this man as a part of our NBA community. Can you help him get rid of us? because the NBA's constitutional bylaws don't allow us to do that. We need to stand up. And they need to stand up and say, could you help us get rid of this man? Because that ain't us. We want no part of this man. That's what has to happen, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And by the way, Skip Bayless, if it doesn't happen by this time tomorrow morning, I'm going to have something more to say tomorrow. It had better. The NBA owners and Commissioner Adam Silver, they need 24 hours. This should be done by then.
And we all know about, we all know how outspoken Stephen A. Smith can be. We all know how outspoken he is. So I don't really think anything's going to happen. So he's going to do more talking. Before I get on to the next video, I just want to say, this man has had a problem for a long time with, Hispanic and black people. And yet, Chris Paul, basically his whole management, is all black. The players are black. And because of this man's history, it's like the NBA let it slide, I mean, you mean to tell me nobody knows how this guy really feels? Nobody really is taking any action about him? Seriously? And just like how Stephen A. Smith said that they're just laborers, They're just people that's putting money in his pocket. So they keep him around, You hire a black head coach, to go with your black team. Because this is, the NBA is, it's mostly with black people. So you get a black head coach, you got a black team, hey, it's all good. But there's a problem. Now, the players don't want to play the games anymore. I think, and it's just me, I think that they tossed that game yesterday against the Golden State Warriors. They tossed it. And you might see more of that coming if nothing happens with this guy in the next few days. Your beloved LA Clippers, I think they're just going to toss the games and just give it away. It could happen. It'll have to be what? The next 2 or 3 games? They have to just toss away? It could happen. All right, so let me go to part 2 of Skip Bayless' comments, and we'll talk a little more about this later. Once again, this is ESPN First Take.
And I'm going to, in a way, disqualify myself, as I always do, because in no way, shape, or form can I feel any way that you or Kerry do about the words that purportedly came out of that owner's mouth. I am speaking a little bit from a distance here, but right now emotions are running high and hot. Would you agree? High and hot, both in social media and within the confines of that Los Angeles Clippers basketball team. So at the very least here, all I can attempt to do from a distance is to provide a little bit of my perspective. And my perspective is this. Obviously, the purported comments, as you say, sure sounded like them, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, I've spoken on several occasions.
Yeah.
That's his voice, but y'all can go ahead and
Okay, whatever. But I'll still say, until we hear proof positive,
Yes.
the purported comments,
It's his voice.
thank you,
Yes.
of one Donald Sterling that he made in private, that now have become so painfully and extremely public, make him the definition of what you do not want in an owner owning a team in a league that's, I'll use your figure, 80% African American, that is driven by African American stars. he is now the definition of anti-black owner you do not want in charge of an NBA team. But here is, for me, the incomprehensible catch to this bombshell story. Donald Sterling's racist, sexist attitudes have been on public display for about a decade in Los Angeles, California, on public display. Even in a 2009 article, May 2009, in ESPN the magazine, one Peter Keating did a stunning, insightful look at this despicable human being and his attitudes toward blacks, Hispanics, and women, sexual harassment suits, and his mistreatment of women who worked under him for the Clippers and in his real estate firm, on extremely public display. And nobody did one thing about it. Nobody. Not nobody in the NBA or outside the NBA. And it even got to the point that the LA chapter of the NAACP has honored this man twice in 5 years, including the scheduled one that was about to come up in May. Honored this man.
Leave that one.
Okay, I will. But I'm giving you this is from a distance where my mind is exploding over all this. So very publicly, we have, as you point out, the 2 race discrimination suits that got settled. And is that not some admission of guilt when you settle? Although he boasted to the LA Times that I didn't pay a penny, the insurance company did. We absolutely denied doing anything wrong. And rather than it going on, the insurance company said it would settle. Okay, so I assume that's how he got out from under it as far as will the NBA punish him for this. You know, the Elgin Baylor lawsuit, age and race discrimination. This is a man who was a long-time African-American GM under Donald Sterling with the Clippers, and Elgin testified that this owner often said to him that he wanted a team of poor black boys from the South coached by a white coach. This is from Elgin Baylor. And Elgin's attorney over the weekend told J.A. Adonde of ESPN.com that he wasn't surprised at all by any of this, because he talks about how everything that he said on this tape is consistent with his dark history of racial insensitivity. The lawyer for Elgin, through all these testimonies given, depositions taken in this lawsuit, Baron Davis has spoken publicly about Donald Sterling's racist attitudes. I guess it went in everybody's one ear and out the other. That's all I can figure out. So how did he get away with this? How did we get to this point that Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and their agents were very comfortable in committing long-term to Donald Sterling's franchise? Am I right about that, Stephen A? Did they not know any of this very public, despicable past of Donald Sterling? Seriously, I'm stunned by this.
They did not.
Okay, they did not know anything. How did they not know? How did their agents not know?
Well, again, their agents might be a different story, but the point is that you're sitting out there, you're playing basketball, you're not paying attention to some of these other things. You're thinking about the owner, how much money he pays, you're thinking about what kind of team that you'll have, et cetera, et cetera. You're not paying attention to things like that, especially when you can write it off like he just articulated with insurance companies. Well, I just paid them off, we didn't admit any guilt, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe they should have. You can make the legitimate argument that that is the case. But I can assure you, especially somebody like Chris Paul, knowing his family and him the way that I do, he didn't know this stuff. He didn't know this.
So anyway, all in all, we done heard a lot about this guy. We heard that Chris Paul did not know how this man is. Now, you know, he does now, obviously. You know, the management knows. So even though Donald Sterling is, you know, he's basically giving you the money and whatever, and, you know, you're getting the money that basically that you settle for with this guy here, Donald Sterling, and all. You're getting paid and all. You're getting lavish houses. You're getting nice cars and all this and that. Even with all of that, do you still, because of the principle of this whole thing is, and because of being a black man and all, and under this type of person's, you know, ownership and all, do you still stay with someone who really dislikes you? You get nice house, you got nice cars and all, you're getting all this kind of money, you know. And I know to niggas it's like, no, ain't nothing gonna stop my flow of whatever and this and that. You know. I know niggas will sit there and they'll say, well, most of the bosses that the boss that I work for, most of the bosses that I did work for, if you had numerous jobs, they probably didn't like you either, And, most of the boss, a boss that you would probably work for that may be white may not like you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, niggas will say, well, I don't want to stop that flow of money. I'm still getting paid or whatever, right? And they forget about principle. They forget about, what if this guy really said a racial remark to you? Let's take it deeper than that. Because a person doesn't really have to say anything to you, and he still may not like you, but he just never said that to you. So fine, you can still work for the guy because he ain't never say anything to you. But what if there was remarks? What if he said something on the side, and you still getting your paper, you're still getting your money, you're still about, hey, this man's still paying me my money, so I really don't care what he has to say or whatever. I don't really care what he, how he really feels about me, as long as he don't say nothing to me. Okay, let's take a step. What if he really said something to you? What if he said, some kind of remark because he thought he can get away with it, since he's giving you that paper that you getting? How would you feel then? How would you feel if he said, man, I know you kind of people. I know y'all love y'all chicken and your watermelon, and I bet you work faster if I gave you a piece of corn or some chicken, or something like that. You gonna still worry about your paper? You gonna stand up and say something, even though you getting a lot of money? It's about principle. It's about respecting yourself. If you don't respect yourself, who will? What if this guy here, what if Donald Sterling said something about, and we're talking to the highest paid player on the LA Clippers. What do you think that man's really going to say he's black? You know what I'm saying? Just because you paying me my money, you don't think I'm going to get all up in your grill and say something back to you even though you paying me? It's about respect. Some people don't see it that way. Some people see it as, my Xbox just did something I didn't even know what the hell. Oh my God. Anyway. You got to know about what, how much respect do you really have for yourself if a guy comes up, if your boss come up and say something to you, how much respect do you have for yourself? You're going to let this man say something about you, disrespect maybe even your family, just because he think he can, just because he giving you your paper? You got to think about that sometimes, because this could happen to you. You could be at your job and your white boss will come up and say something racial to you, and you know it's racial. But you sit there and you smile about it just because you're getting a check. Your life means more than that check. It does. My life means more than, hey, you ain't gonna disrespect me over some check. Seriously. You got to love yourself, man. You got to have respect. You can't let some guy like this, just say something about you and you say you sit there and laugh it off, it's not nothing to laugh about, especially when he disrespect you and your family. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying, it's, it's about respect. And this guy has no respect for his management that he hired, nor his team. He got to be suspended. I'm out.